there's really not an easy way to say this, but Tom and I are accosted by a bunch of Splinter Cell guys. Like every day, I wake up in the middle of the night and I can see the 3 lights on the ceiling from that Splinter Cell guy, and he's there forcing unwanted updates on all of my devices, and they're making everything fucked up. They have since started affecting Tom.
Yeah, I thought that this was something that only happened to Joe. He would say, Tom, I wake up and I see the 3 glowing lights. Why is there a third
You're
one?
always doing that. You're always on and on about that.
I tell him that the reason there's the third thing on his cockles is because he's enlightened and his third eyes have been opened. But then just this other day, I woke up in the middle of the night. I was thirsty. I went to the kitchen and grabbed a cup of water. I flip on the lights. There's like 10 Sam Fishers. They all skitter under my fridge. They were fucking up my computer. All of which is to say, the man doesn't want us to release this episode. They know it's simply too good. The goofs are going to be too funny. Can I give a rundown of all the things that have fucked up this recording?
Yeah, let's do a nice little list.
So I reached out to our guest, asked if they wanted to be on, and a long time went by, and I'm used to this. This is generally like, they don't want to be on the show. I understand. And then, like a week after, I'm like, this is oh well, so be it. I get a response back. It's on Twitter DMs, or should I say X the Everything app DMs. He says to me, Tom, I did not see this shit. I say, sure, well, whatever. I bet there was a notification, but I'll play along. And then I give him a bunch of dates. So these are the dates that we can record. And there was this Thursday that we really wanted. This was going to be the good one. Like, this is when Joe would have been good on this day. And then just like this MF don't respond. And I'm like, I can't believe he didn't respond. To say, and like now it is Thursday, like it is the day. Like even if he said yes, like Joe's busy now, like he hasn't kept that day open. And then I look at my Twitter DMs, which I haven't gotten any notifications for, by the way. And there's our guest like 5 days ago being like, Thursday is fine, and I'm like, oh no. And then so that it didn't fucking work. We had to do that next Thursday, and the next Thursday they couldn't fucking hear me. Because Sam Fisher had turned down my mic volume in Audacity, and Discord's automatic noise gating was cutting off the beginning and ending of my sentences.
You were like a ghost. Like it was like you were like trying to speak from the other side. It was frustrating to podcast for so long and then have a mic issue. I can only describe it as like the plane can't take off because your dick is stuck in the door. Like it's just like very upsetting.
Joe, here's what I was gonna say. I'm like, if I would show here's my image, it would be like because it's a guest, remember. It's like I have to get up to answer the door, but when I get up, I realize I've nailed my dick to the desk, and I'm like, oh fuck. Yeah. All of which is to say we got a guest with us today, folks. Also, this is Anime Sickos, the podcast for geniuses, where we look at the 4 pillars of modern misery: anime, gaming, posting, and jobs. I am Tom, an Anime Sicko.
I am Joe, an Anime Sicko.
Probably should.
And we are joined, finally, secondly, as in the second time it has occurred, by our wonderful guest and friend, Dan.
Dan Sheehan, say his whole name.
Well, I thought we were like friendly. Okay.
Okay, we're leaving that in. Dan, say hello to the folks.
I'm the world's only Dan. I wish, God. I don't know. What would happen to the other Dans in that scenario? Probably nothing good.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's not your problem.
That's true. I'd be the only Dan. I'd be mad with power. Hey, guys. Thank you for having me. I'm sorry for the many problems that have assailed us since that day you sent me that message.
It's all good. We're glad you're here. Please don't judge us harshly. We're idiots, but we're usually competent idiots. So this obviously was a bit of an ego dashing.
Yeah.
So, Dan, the first time I saw you was when you were performing in the Skewer. It was a debate. The debate was about haunted things. Is that true? Was this a Halloween debate?
So I believe what it was some college in Chicago had made a really ill-advised public statement saying we do not believe in offering safe spaces on our campus because it's for gays. It's for the gays to have a safe space. And the thing was like the debaters were debating like which type of in what way should the college deliberately make their spaces more unsafe, and one of them was make all the houses haunted. And Dan, you said a thing which like when it's like when we both heard it, and I don't think we knew it was happening to the other person. It was like an arrow shot out from your mouth directly to our hearts. And I believe it was something to the effect of like the way that you induce a house to become haunted is to throw a bunch of amulets in there.
That's how it's done.
Yeah, like a scattershot effect. Like some of them are cursed, probably. Not all of them, but it's just the numbers game.
I challenge you to find an amulet that isn't eerie in some way. Like, no one's ever like, check out my new amulet when they get a necklace. They're like, I got a necklace, or like, I have a piece of jewelry. You have to see this new piece. It's never like, I have the most exquisite new amulet. And if they do say that, it's moments before their form changes into that of a wizard who's been trying to kill you.
Yes. It's inherent in the very amuletness. If it were not spooky or ooky, it would again just be a chunky statement necklace. Dan, introduce yourself to the class. I think that's a pretty good sort of like you should like Dan up at the top. But what's your deal?
I make and sell amulets. No, I'm a writer and a comedian. Second part has a heavy asterisk. I haven't been on stage in a very long time, but I still write funny things in various places. So I say writer and comedian. You might know me from being online too much for too long. Hopefully in a dream world, you know me because you read and enjoyed my book. But more than likely, you probably saw some of my posts on the internet, and that's fine too. And I've also done stuff with The Onion.
Hell yeah. So, this book you speak of, it's a book about what if there was a guy who was a wolf?
Yeah, basically, that's it. He's a wolf pretending to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a goof I did online for a very, very long time. And then I made it into a book. And it is about a wolf pretending to be a man in an American workplace. And the whole deal is that he's really bad at maintaining this ruse, but it works because when has anyone at work ever cared about you and your deal? And so it's basically just it was a delivery system for a story about just the abject absurdity of American work culture put through the eyes of a wolf who thinks it's cool for some reason.
I have definitely worked at places where if I got up and ran into the woods, would anyone say anything? Probably not.
I don't know. I can tell this is a hereditary trait because my dad used to tell me he'd imagine what he would say at people's funerals. So, like, I know this isn't my fault, strictly speaking, but I would at work sometimes just be like, what would this job do if I died? Yeah. Like, what would the general vibe be here if I died?
In meetings, I play a palette swap version of that game, which is what if I threw up right now? And the answer is like, it'd probably be funny. And then I smile. And then someone's like, oh, do you like that joke, Joe? And I'm like, I'm not listening.
I'm imagining what if a little bit of the juices inside of me came out at this very moment.
Yeah. And like they interacted briefly with my Zoom background.
Throwing up during a remote meeting is great also because you have an opportunity to try and convince everyone that it didn't happen.
Yes. You can turn off your camera, but optics are important.
Yes. Yeah. You could just be like, I was drinking a drink and it came, which isn't a lie because at some point you were drinking a drink and it did come out, just not like as a spit take, but as its own separate thing.
Or it'd
be tough to.
Or you could say that like your Zoom went backwards, like it did it in reverse. Like I was drinking a smoothie.
There was a small amount of liquid. There's a small amount of smoothie on my desk that I sucked up like I'm in fucking Avatar.
So I will ask the dreaded question. Dan, who I have on a first name basis. This is the question we ask all guests. There are no wrong answers. You really get to noodle on this in whichever way you feel is appropriate. Are you an anime sicko?
I would say I am. Mostly because I like anime. Mm-hmm. I'm not as like I haven't fallen as deep in. I feel like
That's
I
a
have.
good thing.
I have my. I liked it a lot growing up, and then waned as I got older, and then like now I dip in every now and then. But sometimes there's so much going on where it'll be like, you know, like One Piece is really long, and so it's really tough for me to be like, I'm gonna try out One Piece or something like that. But then also just the other core tenets of being an anime sicko are of great appeal to me. You guys cover probably my favorite beat on the internet, which is everything sucks and the world is dying.
Yeah, baby, it is. It does.
Yeah. That's actually
it's-
what the 4 pillars hold up.
Yeah. I find it a very refreshing. It sounds like it shouldn't be refreshing, but it's very nice to hear people talk about this thing that to me sometimes feels so apparent, and then you're just like at the bank and no one else is discussing it.
This is what.
so it's
Complaining is an insanely powerful thing, and everyone tells you don't complain, because if you complain, then you start saying like, "Hey, does anyone else notice that nothing's good?" And they're like, "Oh no, don't say that." Like, just like being like, you know what sucks? Every situation is like, people need to hear this.
Yeah, it's if you can complain enough, the whole world changes, which sounds like a joke, but I think actually has happened before.
Yeah.
There is also this element that I feel is important about complaining, because during COVID, which to be clear was not good, the United States just sprayed a bunch of money across the entire society in a way they've never done before. And obviously the pandemic was bad, but like childhood poverty was cut in half. Other things happened that had never happened before. And now that's all gone, and there will never be a nice thing again because they know we had it too good.
They're all gone, and not only that, it's like the government is like, we are so sorry for cutting childhood poverty in half. That was such a massive blunder on our parts. Rest assured, we'll never make that mistake again.
The rapid I feel like that is part of why I enjoy this type of complaining so much, is because all I can think about sometimes is just that, like, for a brief minute it like stuff functioned the way it was supposed to, or that it looked like people at least had noticed the stuff that wasn't functioning, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna send tanks to Wisconsin, and you're just like, oh, okay, so so stuff's gonna be like this probably for good, huh?
Yeah
if they're sending tanks to Wisconsin.
And we didn't. I really regret not saying I had a business and getting a sweet ass PPP loan. I should have been like, anime sickos needed to expand to our Denver office.
Yeah,
that is one of my great regrets in life, was not just being like, my Magic the Gathering podcast needs $20,000.
Yeah, to pay your staff.
I think the big dogs are going to go down for that someday, because there's going to be some president at some point who's looking to pick up easy public opinion and is just going to be like, hey, we prosecuted like 100 fraudulent PPP loans, and I have to believe that, or I get so mad, because it was just free money.
Mother She Wrote's going to keep winning and winning forever and ever.
Every podcast that sucks got $500,000 or whatever. Like, where's mine?
The cool thing about getting that money as a podcast is that you then get to scold people who say you shouldn't have it.
Oh yeah, no, you get to be so sanctimonious, because if anyone gets mad at you, you have money.
Yeah. Jesus Christ.
You're just good. I have to just believe that there's going to be somebody who will go after them, because if I don't, I'll something horrible is going to happen in my mind.
I got bad news about yours and everyone's minds.
It's cooking. It's it's on high heat because they just turned on a money hose, and I was just like, no, I'll be honorable.
That's the dumbest fucking thing. Like, the fact that, like, we all are like, well, we don't, like, why would we, like, we don't qualify for this loan. Therefore, I will let it pass on by. Good day. And it's like, what, huh? How come we're such fucking rubes?
What sort of American am I that 32 years into my life, I haven't killed the instinct in me that says, like, oh, well, I don't need that. That's much too much. Like, that's... like, in order to succeed, you have to kill that and just be like, mine. Like, that belongs to me now. Consume. Like, I'm going to put... Like, while I have, a mouth full of dinner, I'm going to try to put, like, the plate in my mouth as well, just to see if I can. It doesn't matter if it fucking kills me. It will be cool to do. Like, that's, I think, the American way of looking at that.
Do you remember how it used to be, like, they would say, like, you know, when you get taken out to dinner on a business interview, don't salt the food until you taste it first. That way, the boss sees that you try things first and only add your own special spice if needed. And it's like, no, the thing that they're really looking for is when you have a mouthful of dinner, do you just, like, reach out and grab some of their chicken nuggets and put them in your mouth additionally? And if you do that, and they're like, oh man, this guy understands business.
It's like the entire, like, I think the intelligence of businessmen has always been inflated. Like, I don't think there was some golden age where these guys were making incredible moves, mostly because like my dad like helped old folks, like, basically, like, with retirement funding. Mm-hmm. Like, that was his whole job. And so he always knew how finance worked. And when I was a kid, he explained very basic concepts to me. And when I, like, came to him being like, what's this? What's an option? What's that? He told me, like, about the gambling stuff, where he was basically just like so much of this is just basically, like, formalized gambling, and that so many of the people who are successful at it are just people who can be like, yeah, I'm going to throw a $10,000 bet at this fucking insane thing and see if it explodes. So, like, I think businessmen have always been dumb. But it feels like there is something that happened in, like, the last... It's got to be YouTube or something, or podcasts or whatever. But, like, this switch in how they talk and how blatantly they will just say nothing is fascinating to me. Like,
yes. I saw a lot of this with... just any language about AI. It was just you are describing the benefits of something without saying anything. I'm not, of course, going to say AI has no added value, but, like, based on how it was discussed when it first happened, where we're at currently seems to suggest that it did not have the juice to, revolutionize everything and take away everyone's jobs or whatever people were promised.
Yeah.
So what are you left with? You say nothing. It's just buzzwords.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just like SAT soup. It's like, I mean, I don't, like, as someone who writes and, like, I like using language effectively, like, the way that language has been kind of reduced to buzzwords and reduced to these, like, you know, like, big vocab words that you can throw out there, like optimization or whatever, you know, like all the business words where it's like, if you say enough of them in a row, like, everyone you're talking to, like, turns to dust because they just are so excited to hear all those words. I cannot understand what led us there, but it's very funny to read, like, you know, from the outside of it.
And then, of course, I mean, you also have to deal with the type of businessman that they're... I also feel like this is a new development, which is, like, the publicly and proudly dumbassed, best summed up by our good buddy Elon, who has tried to sabotage this recording, but we've beaten him now. Like, this motherfucker, like, he doesn't use big words. He's just like, hello, everybody. We're going to have robots next year. It's happening. And then he has, like, guys in bodysuits come out and go, like, wee! And I think to myself, surely some tech journalist is going to be like, I don't think this is possible, and follow up a year from now, and they just don't. And like,
he loved him.
He wins. Like, he's so stupid. You were telling us how, before we started recording, that when Grimes was doing your terrible role in Cyberpunk 2077, he came up to the fucking recording studio with an actual gun and was like, let me have a cameo. I'm just joking, but I'll shoot you. You don't.
Joking around with a flintlock pistol, thinking like because it's an old gun, it's a funny joke to point the old gun at someone when it's like old guns kill you in like fucked up ways. Like you get like a weird crater in you from it's not like new bullets where they just like you like atomize when it passes through you or whatever, you know, like it's like the old Civil War bullet where it's just like a little meteorite hit you and you're just gonna slowly perish now.
Yeah, you die because your shirt was somehow woven inside you as it went in.
Yeah, like it just little hand cannons basically, and so he's pointing one of those at a guy, asking to be in a video game with his wife Grimes,
the richest man in the world at this point, if not at that point, obviously like up there.
Yeah, he was definitely. I mean, this would have been. I mean, probably like 2016, 2017, something like that. Like insane, just insane. I mean, it's all just confidence, right? I think it's just like, if you have any sense of shame at all, you can't do it because you need to be able to walk on stage and be like, I'm going to have robots next year. And everyone just goes, dude, why would anyone ever say anything false for money? Like,
I'd never do that, so certainly he must not fucking.
I would be really afraid of getting caught. So if he's doing this, it must mean he's not afraid of getting caught, which must mean
there's nothing
that
casual
robots
for
are
it.
coming next year. Yeah, like
Jesus Christ, yeah.
My belief is that even if you like had a pure heart, if you were surrounded by, like, the wealth changes the gravity. You will be surrounded by yes men and women no matter what. And even if you were like an okay person, like only having people around you who agree with you, because again, your wealth is just like greater than that of small countries. Like you stop functioning as a human being. Like you don't, you don't have the brain the same way.
You got that wealth by putting another dinner in your mouth while you were still full of dinner. And,
exactly.
And so now you're just that guy. Now you're the guy with the full mouth all the time. And that's going to change your soul.
Yeah, it's like if you are surrounded by people who, like, when you start saying, like, TED Talk soup, like money is power, power's a baby, you got to raise that baby up until he's a beautiful adult. And they're all just, like, fucking nodding. Like, you're going to be like, wow, I must really be on a great tear right now. Like,
I helped out at I think it was a maker's camp in central Illinois, and one of the kids there was just like a stereotypical high achiever, like a lot of the kids were, but he had just, in passing, mentioned like what are the things he does, and he's like, I make sure I watch a TED Talk every night, and it made me feel so ill, dude. I wanted to just be like, you need to play Pokemon, like nothing in a TED Talk is useful, period. And it's definitely not useful to you because you're 10. And by the time you're 20, you will be in the Firelands.
Yeah. I wonder if it's like, if with the homogeny of like comic book movies and all this shit are like every kid likes them now, like they're everywhere. There's like, you don't get made fun of for like reading comics or whatever like you used to when you were a kid. Like, are weird little business children the new nerds now, where it's just like that? I mean, but I guess if there's anything that's more accepted than like formerly niche fantasy and sci-fi, it's like devotion to profit. Like
little Bitcoin kids.
Yeah, I guess they're all like that now, right? Like it's all about like when you like college apps now, rather than extracurriculars, it's like they all start these like foundations. And it's like a foundation when it's like, my parents made a $5,000 donation to my foundation to cure a disease. And it's like, what happens to these when you go to college? Like, all these kids claim to have, like, started charities or do charity.
What? I never heard of this.
An office? This...
So I've fallen down some, like, TikTok wormholes before of, like weird, like, hustle mindset people.
Like wealth TikTok.
Yeah, and so it's like the kids from like prep schools and stuff, they all have like full-on businesses or foundations or things that they have started. And I'm sure it's like, you know, as we were talking about off air, it's like not hard to incorporate. So I'm sure some of them like incorporate and like sell whatever they're going to sell or do a fundraiser for whatever they're going to fundraise for, and then pretend that they were like the real boss at the work factory for, as a child, like at 17, to be like, I had employees. Like, I guess that must work.
Like a college applicant, rather, someone reviewing a college applicant, if they saw that, like, they would think, oh, that's bullshit, or they should.
Yeah.
Because, like, you just basic thinking, it's just like, this is a 17-year-old. What was the best version of me at 17? Uh-oh.
Dan, you wrote fucking Magic the Gathering cards. Is this true?
Like it's the bottom text, the flavor.
Yeah, I didn't design anything, but I do write some of the flavor text sometimes. I did it for one set that comes out in April of next year, and another one that comes out at an indeterminate time in, I think, either late 2024, maybe even early 2025.
Can I ask a process question?
Yes.
Obviously, you have to write these things. You either assigned or whatever. So, like, do they give you the art and then the mechanics of the card, and you go from there, or are you working with less?
Yeah, you got like a basic outline. I mean, it really depends on like how much is done already, but they kind of give you what they got so far, and you work from there. And yeah, you kind of just like, you get to learn about whatever world they're doing the set in, and then you kind of work from there based off of like what the tone is, what, like, is there like a big dramatic war going on, or is it kind of a sillier, more lighthearted thing, or is it, and it can change even within the set itself, where it's like, oh, this card is, somebody who is very important to the story, and this card's just a goofy little guy, so you could do like a joke on the card if you would like. So yeah, it's like you have a lot of autonomy as a writer in that environment. It's really neat.
As a kid, I thought my dream job was writing strategy guides. Obviously, those don't exist anymore. Well, they don't exist anymore because there was GameFAQs, but that's gone. So now everything's like a Discord. That sucks. But the point is, there's no strategy guides. There are, however, cards that need flavor text. So I am like, my 15-year-old self would be blown away by this work of yours, because it's like a hobby I had. It's like a thing I'm always looking at. Like, the flavor text is funny because, like, I played Magic in like high school and college during like the Mirrodin time, and like, I didn't think I was reading the flavor text, but then like one day you realize that like you've absorbed all this lore just because like the bottom of every card has something. That was fun. I love that.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I got into it because of the story. Like, I just like mostly jammed in cards of characters I thought looked cool. And like, that was like always my favorite part of it. I bought all the books. I read like every Magic book you could get back then, because they would do the old paperbacks. And so I was very, very obsessed with it. And it's one of the few things you can do in the current version of the world that my 15-year-old self would actually understand and be proud of. If I went back in time and talked to my 15-year-old self and was just like, okay, so you post jokes on a website called Twitter sometimes, and sometimes a lot of people enjoy those jokes. He would be like, oh, okay, cool. Like, do you have a house that you own? And
yeah, like, surely you get like a check for how good the joke was, right?
Yeah, and then they pay you
all
the
right,
big
listen,
bucks,
you little
right?
shit.
And yeah, at that point, I would be just quietly weeping. Whereas, like, if I was like, you write the flavor text on Magic cards, I'd be like, fuck yeah, dude, what's Karn up to? Like, let's do anything for Karn? Like that. Like, it's like, I moved out to LA because I was like, okay, like, I really enjoy writing, and television is one of the few places where you can like actually make a living writing. So I'm going to give that a shot with the dream of getting something I've written on television. And then I wrote flavor text for a Magic card, and like that little itch in my brain just kind of evaporated.
It's like good enough. That's actually what I was looking for.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I left my legacy on the world. That fucking ruled. Now I can just go back to doing like whatever I think is fun, which was really kind of a crisis because I really put a lot of time into being out here in this different place than where I lived. But yeah, it was like when I did it, I was like, wow, this is like very, very satisfying. I would like to do more of that. And luckily I've been able to do more. It was like one of those weird moments where you like kind of snap into a thing where I just hope I get to keep doing it, because it feels just like a perfect combo of all the stuff I like doing. And it's fun and slots into a larger life, not solely dedicated to just that. It's not like it's not my full-time job, obviously. And it's not like, something that eats up all of my thoughts, and I'm not independently wealthy, so I can't just like riff novels my whole life. Like I hope I get to finish a second book at some point, but they are tremendously difficult to write alongside any sort of like functional life. So it's cool to get to like tell a story in little pieces on a card for a game that that introduced me to all my oldest friends. So it's one of the rare things where you actually can still do some of that out there. I feel very lucky to have like gotten involved with it.
Yeah. So when you play, are you because now there's a pretty snappy online version. Are you committed to like the physical cards? Do you dabble with the online stuff?
I play both. I play in person a format called Commander. That's basically like it's multiplayer, so it's not like as competitive as like the 1v1. Like you lose by turn 3 or 4 if somebody really knows what they're doing.
Right.
It's like more of a layback, like chill out, have a beer with friends type of format. And so I play that with a bunch of my friends out here, and that's like what I like podcast about and shit. And then I play online for like 1v1 and drafting and stuff like that.
Yeah, the only online card thing I had done was Hearthstone at launch. And at launch, it was fine because they had not, like, optimized the suffering quite yet. And there are times I do see, like, a Magic card. And I'm like, I don't really know what this set is about, but, like, I could probably make a deck where I could fit that in there.
Yeah, I like, part of what got me back into Magic was I'd been playing a ton of Hearthstone, and it felt close to scratching the itch. Like I played a ton growing up, and so I was like, I remembered what it felt like to play Magic, and Hearthstone felt close, but like not quite there yet. And I just like it's tough to beat that system. That game really like it gets it done. It is very good at being what it is, which I guess is why it's like still around after all this time.
I have not ever played Magic. I just want to say my one sort of flavor, the best flavor text I ever saw, which is for the only fucking card game I ever played, seriously, which is Android Netrunner. And I love, as Joe well knows, I'm obsessed with this shit, and I love the world and the flavor of that game.
And the devil took it from you.
The devil took it from me, but we don't need to get into that. But what's so fun about that is that the world of that of Netrunner is like a cyberpunk dystopia, but unlike the sort of generic version of that, where everything's just grimy and terrible, the thing that makes the dystopia so horrifying is that if you are of middle class means, like the distractions, the bread and circuses are like legit. Like you have a better quality of life in the future world than you do now. Hence, you're more locked in to like, I love it. I will work for the corporation because like I look at this incredible set of wonders I'm being given by the glory of technology. Like, of course, if you are poor, it is much worse than being poor now. But like, you don't think about those people. And there's one card that is the flavor text is a quote from a laborer, a white collar worker, and it just mentions, and it's the tone is very good. It's like, I am bought in. I am a good little drone, and it just mentions that like I work my 6 to 6 like anyone else, and it's like, oh, not 9 to 5, huh? 6 to 6, huh? Okay. And it's just like they never mentioned 6 to 6 again, but I'm just like, fuck.
Very
no.
incredible, like, word economy to world building ratio there, where it's like single sentence, and I feel like you have a very good idea of what sort of world you're working with there. It's just, it starts earlier, ends later, and there's general enthusiasm about it that, like, yeah, that rules.
First of all, like, what is the, like, if you submit your flavor text, do they, like, yay or nay it, and you get a chance to rewrite, or how does that work?
So between the time when I was writing with the team and like submitted all the copy I submitted, there was like a lot of time, close to a year maybe, where changes can be made on like a design front, art front, whatever. So all of it can like get refined and stuff between when it goes in and when it comes out. So it's not like I get final say on it or anything like that.
Gotcha. My pitches are, this first one works for any card. You should use this one if you're like can't come up with any ideas, and it's just this card sucks, and everything's lowercase, no punctuation. Does your name appear in the flavor text? Like, will it say like this card sucks, Dan?
No, if only. The only things they attribute are the fake characters. So if I could successfully pitch a character who was Dan, writer of flavor text, then
Planeswalker Dan is huge right now.
yeah.
And then there are countless cards that are either goblins or they depict goblins being hit by stuff, and just all goblins are gay. Anyone who's really upset about that is going to be very funny.
And talk about economy of words to world building accomplished. It's like every goblin card that has ever been printed. It's like, by the way, that goblin, that's
They
a
all work.
Altering the canon sexuality of every goblin in just 4 words.
That's the power of writing.
That is the power of writing. It's really beautiful when you think about it. Also, I love the idea of there being like guys who are mad. You know how there's always like a YouTuber screaming about Star Wars? I like the
In
idea
their car, yeah.
Yeah, like the right wing really loves to talk about like fantasy stuff being any attempt at making fantasy stuff more diverse usually gets like a 3-hour video, and I love the idea of someone dedicating that solely to goblins being canonically gay.
I would love the citations to refute the statement.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do goblins reproduce? And it's like, you don't think they can like suck it up for 5 minutes,
Or they bud.
or they bud.
Sex for goblins is purely recreational, and their goblin babies come from somewhere else. Who's to say?
Isn't orc stain like that? They just like grow.
Oh yeah, their graunches pop off like little like funguses, and it clomps into the ground, and eventually it grows, and a bunch of little goblin babies pop out of it. Not goblins, orcs. Orcstain owns. You ever read Orcstain, Dan?
No, I didn't.
You gotta read. That'll really give your brain a lot of juice to make goblin-based flavor text with. That's
I love
hell of a good comic.
It's gross in a beautiful way. Like, it's so colorful and also disgusting.
That's kind of my overall goal in any fantasy thing I've ever done, because like I also got to write a story for like the Magic canon like a year and change ago, and it was about a goblin. And my favorite thing to do with fantasy stuff is to give dignity to fantasy's weird little guys.
Yeah, kobolds and goblins. Yeah,
they are so often just like cannon fodder or something like that. And like the goblin I was writing is literally, he's immortal, and his whole bit is that he dies in increasingly horrifying ways, but he can never actually die because he always is restored and totally fine. And the fan response to him has always been like, "Isn't it so funny?" And I was like, "This is so sad that like this goblin's whole life," because the character before that was like dumb but always managed to survive, which I don't know, I resonates with me for some reason. And so I was like, oh yeah, all that got erased when he became immortal. And they were just like, isn't it funny when this guy gets smushed? All his friends are dead, by the way. All his friends have grown old and lived happy lives, but he is just still getting smushed. And so was my
And
goal, was to give him.
mechanically, the goal is to sacrifice him as much as possible, right?
Oh yeah, you want to exploit the hell out of it. And
Yeah.
get him out of the graveyard, get him out of exile. Like he is. He lives to die, especially mechanically. So
When I played, and before they banned skull clamps, which they banned skull clamps pretty quickly.
Great card.
It was so fucking fun. A skull clamp was an equipment card that gave +1 attack, -1 toughness or health, or whatever you want to fucking call it. And when the creature that has the skull clamp dies, you get to draw 2 cards. Buddy, I was clamping 1/1 guys. I was like lining all these fuckers up. You're like, guess what? I need to draw some cards.
best part of the clamp, yeah. You get a 1/1. You throw the bad hat on it, and its head smushes, and then you get to draw cards.
And you would get draw. You could get ridiculous draw on red. Like it was just goofy.
It's a great card for that. God, I do love Magic. It's weird. I didn't play for a very long time, and then I came back and was just like, this actually rules. And I was stupid to stop doing it.
Think they're ever going to finish Gathering?
One of these days, we'll have learned all we need to, and we can just be done with it. Go back to Magic alone.
Not that this is necessarily a problem with Magic, but I do often think about how the game is how old now? 30 years?
Yeah, it's just had a big high-profile 30th birthday bonanza.
And with that just means, there'll never be like a new color or anything really fucked up. Like they are, maybe it's good for just longevity, but they are they have a stake in the ground.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I do think it probably presents, like, I've never designed anything, so PSA if you're like a diehard Magic person listening to this. I have no windows inside Wizards beyond, like, the cards that I have written text for and, like, obviously, like, that stuff. But, I feel like they are in a unique position where they have this thing that has been around for 30 years and everyone kind of expects it to be one way. But it also, like, exploded in popularity over the pandemic, like, in a way that it hadn't had in a long time, I think. Like, you've got, like, Post Malone playing Magic the Gathering again. Like, it feels more public than it was for a really long time. And, like, I don't know what its status is with, like, teenagers and stuff, but I know way more people are playing it than used to. And so for a lot of people, it is still brand new. So I honestly feel like they could throw some wild curves people's way. And, like, it wouldn't feel as sacrilegious.
I see.
It has the same thing that a lot of long-running fantasy and nerd properties have, which is that, like, there are people who've been playing since the 90s who are just like, well, it's not like it was in the 90s, and so I'm mad. And then there are people who started playing in, like, 2019 and are like, well, they're doing this crazy thing. They've got gingerbread men on cards. And it's like, I think that's pretty fun.
90s man will never be happy.
Yeah, and that's nostalgia is a fucking trap, dude. Don't fall for it. It will ruin your life. So
yeah,
I feel like
except for Chrono Trigger, that's good.
Yeah, I've
That's
replayed
good.
that. It holds up. That's as good as it ever was.
Half-Life 2, same deal. Makes you actually stronger to be nostalgic for it. And
Yeah.
to say that they don't make them like this anymore. That is fine to say for Half-Life 2.
The pistol in that is so good.
I actually
Yeah.
was talking to the CDC, and they say that if you say that counts as getting a COVID booster. It's the
Yeah.
same.
It will protect you from disease of any kind, I've heard. And so, yeah, it's really important to be nostalgic for Half-Life 2 and Chrono Trigger. But when it comes to, I think, things like Magic, where it's like, once something has existed for that long, I think it can be... there are so many people that, and this doesn't just go for Magic, this goes for, I feel like, a lot like Star Trek, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, like, people aren't willing to admit that they liked a thing because they were a kid.
Yeah.
And they're like, I just wanted to go back to how it was when I didn't pay taxes. And it's like, oh, really? You want? Oh, we're not going to interrogate that any further, huh? We're just going to go ahead and say that it happened to be at its apex while you were a child with no responsibilities and infinite time to play, huh?
And yeah, you can loop watching the movie 10 times a day. Yes.
Yeah, it's like my favorite part about Star Wars was that, like Luke Skywalker was this, and me and my dad were hanging out, and it's just like, oh yeah, one of those wasn't in the script, pal. One of those is just That was just a nice childhood memory that you, every time you access it in this way, you're putting like the negative over a flame and just melting it into something horrible.
Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode. Sicko mode, sicko mode, sicko mode.
Dan, you know what we both know, which is that posting. You know how you go online, you post? It blows my ass in a big way. Now, we mentioned it briefly. You run the Not a Wolf account, Sick of Wolves, where the guy is a wolf, but he's pretending to be a normal guy at the job.
He's a salary man.
And so, to me, this is a very well done sort of in-character account. The obvious jokes about like the wolf, he's doing wolf behavior while wearing a suit. That's great. You got through that fucking quick, and you had the genius move of like it is actually about something, which is about how it is impossible to put on this awful mask of corporate cog when you are an actual guy made of meat underneath who wants to not be doing this. So like you have an actual core thesis here that allows it to be more than just, okay, here's the fucking jokes about wolves. You get it, folks? However, I feel that any sort of big account that gets huge, whether it be an in-character account or even just your own personal account, like I see people who joke on Twitter get 250,000 followers. Every time I see that, what I feel like I see is someone reaching and with their own hand shutting the door of a big cage that they're in forever. Does this resonate with you?
It does a little bit. So I started the bit when I was 22. It was the summer after college, and I had done this bit in college where I'd made an OkCupid page that was like the wolf, and the joke was that it was like obviously a wolf, and he just wanted you to bring a ham to the edge of the forest. It was like a very different gag. I found a picture of like, I think I didn't even really realize at the time what I had found, but I had found someone who had photoshopped a wolf head onto like the face of like a svelte man in a turtleneck, and it was like, oh, it was like early furry Photoshop stuff, but I thought it was hilarious. And so I was just like, oh, yeah, for sure. This guy he's 4 feet tall, and he just needs you to bring a ham to the edge of the woods, and that's a great first date for him. And like leave the ham and go away. And like that was the joke, and it got removed from OkCupid very quickly. But me and my friends were so tickled by this character that my friend was like, "You should start a Twitter account for it," because it was 2012, 2013, around that time. And that's what you did if you had an idea, was you started a Twitter account.
And that's how you know that time machines will never be invented, because no one showed up and was like, "Don't start a Twitter account."
Yeah. The fact that anyone was able to post for the first time without their haggard future self arriving means that time travel either does not exist or that we do not survive to use it. I made this account for it, and yeah, like you said, it was like I got through like the early wolf joke stuff really quickly, where I was just like, I put my pants on one leg at a time like anyone else, but oh my god, my shirt's like just really fucking goofy, like fun little one-linery stuff like that, like real like still spark in my eyes type shit. And so I made a lot of those jokes and then joined the workforce while it was blowing up. I had my first temp jobs, and when you're a temp, you are functionally like bones to the person you're working for, where they are just kind of like moving you room to room, and they're like, okay, like, we're going to put the bones in here for today because that's where we need the bones right now. And so I worked for like a company that was just, they dealt with trains. That sounds like a guy who's never had a job in his life. But there was a company that dealt with trains that hired me at like $12 an hour to
makes them go away.
They make deals with trains. Yeah, they assassinate trains. They basically were just like, well, we've been keeping all these goddamn paper files for as long as there've been trains, I suppose. And these gotta be digital. We gotta have these scanned. There's like years of files about trains, and we need just the most depressed comedian in Chicago to come on down and sit in this file. Yeah, and it was me. They called me up and they were like, we have a very specific request. So I went and I sat in this file room, and it was right when the account this was like 2016 somewhere, and then maybe 2017. And I had been like doing little goofy tweets on this thing for years, intermittently, never super consistently. And I was just so fucking mad to be sitting in this little filing room. Like, I literally would like hide my lunch in some of the folders because I like wanted to be able to like have time to eat. And so I just like, I was sitting there on my phone, like watching this thing blow up, and like people were paying attention, and I was like so mad, and it was already in all caps. And so that's where like the whole bit came from. It was like me actually just understanding that like work as you imagine it from ages 0 to 18 and work as you experience it, like, you know, whenever you start working, are two like very different things. And so I did that for a handful of years, and then, you know, that kind of exploded up to the size that it is at now, which is, you know, it had like at a time before the Great Exodus, like hundreds of thousands of followers. And yeah, it now is just kind of, I mean, I'm 32 now, man. I know how it all works, and I'm like, I still think it sucks, but I don't like, I think what happened with it is like I did, like, at the time there was like kind of a linear trajectory, right, on the early like social media, where it's like, if you do a thing and people love this thing, you can actually make money and do this thing for a living, and like you could be a comedian or writer or whatever. If only you could, you know, kind of show. It was the period where social media actually was cool, because like you could show by consensus that the industry was wrong to have not included you in some way, where it's like, okay, well, hundreds of thousands of people have said that even though I didn't go to Harvard, it turns out I am still, in fact, literate, and can make jokes.
Know about that.
I didn't write Board of the Rings, but, you know, we can't all. And so I did all that stuff, and I had like this success from it, and was just like, all right, like, here it comes. They came to me with an offer to write a book that was based off this character, and I was ready. I had this like whole story in mind, this whole outline. They were like, what we think would be great is if we took some of the best tweets and put them in a book. Oh, that was the first offer, was put together 100 of your favorites of these and put them in a book, and we'll sell that.
So artistically, obviously,
I knew this was
way
the most fulfilling option that could have presented itself. In terms of work, that's pretty good. In my head, I'd imagine like, okay, I've proven myself. Now someone will let me write a comedy book, because also like the humor book to begin with had been relegated to this like Urban Outfitters checkout line trash, where it's just like, here's a picture of 100 dogs, like that's what a comedy book is now. And so like
to the point where when you said that initial pitch, I had this sick moment where I like put myself in the shoes of like a publishing guy, and I'm like, that's what's gonna sell.
If you put a picture of 100 dogs, like, to be clear, like, I know people who have like viral accounts who've gone the route of like printing their tweets, or who've gone the route of doing something like way more digestible, and I don't blame them at all, because now they have like money and creative freedom and stuff. So it's like there are a lot of different avenues to go down, and the one I picked was to look at that offer and say, that sucks, I don't want it. Which, when you are coming from the outside of that world, they don't really want to hear that. They don't want to hear like, oh, the guy who we've deigned with our offer says that he wants to write his little story or whatever. Like, well, we're not going to do that.
Especially because they see easy money in just slapping your tweets in a book and selling them. Like, they see the bag. They want to acquire it.
Yeah. Part of, like you were saying, like, social media proves that the industry's wrong. This is something people like. And so they're like, yeah, you proved us wrong. This specifically is something people like. So we're going to do that.
We would like to make money from this thing you already did without us. And to me, it was like, well, if you're going to work with me, like, I already can do this without a big publishing company behind me. Like, I can make more tweets. Like, I know how to do that. If I'm gonna work with like a big company who's gonna like and enter into a contract with deadlines and all this stuff, like I'm gonna actually make something I'm excited about, and I'm gonna make you take a little bit of a fucking risk because you've got all the money and all the power and all the marketing budgets and stuff, and like I'm gonna write a weird thing and make you release it. Like that's the only reason I could conceivably see working with one of these companies. And so like I did that, and like luckily at the time I had an agent who like was really like into what I was doing and my vision for it, and she was like very frank with me. She was like, the tweet thing would sell tomorrow. Like if you want to do, like, you could do that tomorrow, or we can go around and see who wants to check out this other thing you have planned, which is just to be clear, a choose your own path, an interactive comedy novel about a wolf pretending to be a man. And so that's like I did all of that, and then when I finally go online and I'm finally like, okay, here is this thing that I've worked so hard for ages, people in the comments were like, shut the fuck up about this book and give me more posts.
No.
And I remember it crystal clear. I remember like trying to promote this thing that I was so excited about that I was like, because like I actually believe that like what people were doing, especially in that era where it was like people were throwing, like I see it as work, I see it as art, I see it as like something I would sit and I would write and I would try to like use the words in the correct way to actually make it feel like it meant something. And like people got that shit tattooed on them, like it did in its moment have its impact. But like at that point it like broke something in me where I was just like, oh, this is not like a ramp up to making the thing you want to make. This is porridge.
But you have to stay on the tracks. You were on tracks.
Exactly.
You must stay on the tracks.
It made me recognize like content's a public utility at this point. Like it's any disruption to the flow of like the posts that people expect to get every day, even if it's like to write a book, gets people mad. And like, I guess to be clear, like it would like a bunch of people bought it, read it, enjoyed it, and shared it, which like I don't want any of those people to be sitting there like, oh man, that wasn't my experience with it, and sounds like he's not happy. Like I'm so thrilled with like every person who actually engaged with it and understood like, oh, this person who's been writing this thing that I've enjoyed for a very long time has written this other thing, and so I'm gonna take a $12 gamble on that other thing. Like I'm so grateful to those people because everything I've gotten to do since has been because the book actually did fairly well, all things considered. But like the fact that the number of people whose response to it was just like shut up and give us more posts, like really fundamentally changed the way that I look at the internet and making content.
Because like if you don't want to engage with this thing you are offering, it's just like that's fine. You can pass on it.
I'm not being. I never want to be one of those guys who's like, all right, Wolf fam, everybody get on there. The fucking big publishing industry doesn't want this to be a New York Times bestseller because I am an attacked figure. You guys got to go slam that buy now button on Amazon. Fuck your local indie bookstore. Like, just buy that thing up so I can get that number one screenshot and put it on my Twitter profile for. Like, I don't want to be that guy. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to make a thing, and I hoped that people would like engage with it and get excited about it, and like. And for the folks who did, it was great, but it was like to see so many people react with it with this like visceral, like not even like I read it and I think it sucks and I wish you would go back to doing whatever. Like if that had been the response, I'd be like, oh, I guess I didn't have like the juice for it. But it was like everyone who read it enjoyed it, and that stung more on some level that then so many people were refusing to like were like mad that I did it.
I think so. Okay. This resonates with me in a lesser way because we put out our big audio drama, and it didn't have like it's all of the like highs and lows that you're saying are sort of muted for this just because it is a smaller thing. But I think that it's all part and parcel of like posting. Like we all had this inaccurate assumption that like posting was a means to an end. You know, if you have a reach, if you have an audience, then that means something for you in a non-posting arena. Yeah, like I can use my posting to make my art get seen. Yeah. No.
In retrospect, that was dumb. I don't know why we thought that.
Yeah, it's insane. No. Posting is like, as you say, it is porridge, and it only, like, there's no like next step. It is always just like, it's stirring the gloop. It's drinking from the toilet. You can't get your head out of the toilet and be like, guys, I just plopped an incredible home-cooked meal into the toilet. I hope you lick it. It's just like...
It is like being like the fucking, like, what is that liquid stuff you can pour into water to, like, jazz up your water?
Mio!
Yeah, it's like that, but for the toilet, where they're just like, listen, so we sell toilet, and people don't like to drink toilet. But in this case, toilet is ads. And so we know that people do not like to drink toilet, and so we need you to drop your special dust into that toilet so that it tastes like blue. And so, because people will drink the blue, they won't drink toilet, but they'll drink blue toilet. And so if you can just add that to it, that'd be great. And like, that's how it can feel sometimes, where it's just like, I mean, I guess in that metaphor, like, I think the stuff that makes the toilet taste good is beautiful. And in that metaphor, it's dust made of like weird chemicals, but you know.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, as you can make the most incredible dust. You can work so hard on the dust and put your whole soul into it. It's still going in the toilet. And I think the main thing is that, like, to like make a piece of art and like attempt to use posting to promote it, fundamentally misunderstand, like, what does it mean to engage with a piece of art? It means like you have to take time out of your day and really focus on something and understand what it's saying and have its message resonate with you in your own personal way. And what posting is you can't see it, but I'm making a face like I'm dead-eyed and I'm scrolling.
It's a very good dead-eyed face for the folks at home.
It's this.
Yeah,
like, what's on the fucking post is irrelevant.
It's like, yeah, you're promoting thoughts on the No Thoughts website. Like, it's, you know, like, it's, of course, people were always going to get mad in the comments, and like, you know, or not. It wasn't even really that there was anger in the comments so much. Like, I don't want to paint this picture that I wrote a book and everyone was like, you fucking suck. It was more so just like
why did you do a different thing?
Yeah, and the one that really stuck with me was there was someone who reviewed the book and like left a bad review that was actually not about the book. It was about how they felt as though I was talking about it too much on Twitter. So they were like, I guess I'll leave it a review if he's going to post about it this much. And I was like, that's insane to take time out of your day to engage with like that version of yourself, to take time like of being the equivalent of like somebody who tried to grab an apple from a pony, like, and like to react like that, and to not be willing to like react to be like, I love this thing so much that I now hate the person who made it, like for trying to do anything else is I think it just it revealed like you were saying, just like something about the way it works and the fact that it promotes kind of this. It's not a ramp up to art, it's an active avoidance of everything art tries to promote.
And like the fact that I don't know that there is a way to again, on the No Thoughts website, attempt to be like, please engage with my art, that does not come across
as like disgusting, small bean, pathetic.
Yeah. It's just like sweaty and disgusting. Like, I feel so like I try not to fucking talk about my stupid audio drama, because every time I do, I feel like I'm pathetic and whining. But like, I'm just like, why wasn't that our biggest hit? Why wasn't that our biggest episodes?
I feel the same way, where I'm like, and some of it is that like I feel like the world events have really conspired. Like the book had one plan, and then COVID happened, and it had another one.
Fuck.
And so I didn't do a book tour. I didn't do, like the marketing was much more limited. Like there were no bookstores open. Like I didn't get a lot of that. But like not the fucking worst thing that happened during that period of time, I would say.
Probably the dying.
Yeah, all the dying and that, I would say is it's not something I complain about publicly for good reason. But yeah, I feel like sorry, I've lost my train of thought now because I feel bad for complaining about it.
Never feel bad about complaining. It's actually virtuous to complain.
Yeah. As I said,
one thing you were saying that I think is compelling, which is just like the issue is you did something different. You had this account, and then you wrote a book that explored different themes. Obviously, it was still a continuation of what you had on Twitter, but like you did something different. That is non-optimal. Why'd you do that? That's not business mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tim Ferriss and Jocko would never have done this.
It's seeing the way the platforms turn on you, because it's not even so much your audience, but the second you start posting a link to something else, or suddenly that audience isn't your audience anymore, which was not the case in like 2012 to 2015. Like selling T-shirts from that Twitter account, like paid for me to like move to LA. Like I was like truly like it was my sole lifeline for a little while in a time where employment was like pretty tough to lock down. And that changed distinctly over the course of like 2018 to 2020, somewhere like the exact point at which I was writing the book. And so suddenly if you were promoting anything that wasn't just a post, it got throttled. Like you'd look at, who viewed it or whatever. And it was like, and the odds of, anyone like The Onion talks about it all the time. Anyone who has a website that's not Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram is like, for the love of God, click any link, any link. Please do not post a screenshot of your favorite part of my article. Please click the link on this website that is, that accepted the pitch. Like so many journalists are like, I will never sell another pitch if you guys keep just like screen grabbing the parts of it that are interesting and passing them around without attribution. And so seeing like the way that the platform can turn on people, like I think it makes it hard. And I think I understand, like, I think it's exactly like what happened with the audio drama, where you sit there and you put something out into the world and you just hope that this audience looks at it. And it's very hard, I think, now to disrupt, like, what people expect to be like an unending stream.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
What I like about it, though, is that it has turned us into the same type of annoying guys who complain about shadow banning that we made fun of previously.
I'm
they're right. They're
so
correct.
invested in shadow banning now. It's so real, folks. It's happening to me. It should be illegal for my kids not to call.
I stand with Cat Turd.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's always the thing, because like I don't complain about this often, like, because I feel like it's a very difficult thing to touch on, because it's like there are thousands of people who did engage with this thing and loved it, and I'm like so thrilled. But when you're looking at a number as high as the number that had, and then like you're kind of pushing through people being weird about it to find the ones who enjoyed it, like that, it speaks to me to to kind of like an underlying issue with the way that we consume things online.
It's fucking numbies, dude. It's sick. The human mind was not meant to see this many numbies. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think so much of it is just like a numbing agent, where we are like, I joked when we were talking about this episode. I was like, I am the type of crazy where I feel like we shouldn't even play music in the grocery store. I feel like we've fundamentally like warped our relationship with art that badly, where I should just fucking have my thoughts at the grocery store. Why do I have to hear a pop hit? Like, there was a time, and again, this will sound like you had a 1,000-year-old man for a guest, to be like, there was a time when if you heard music, it was the only time you'd hear music for years.
What?
But I mean, there was like a time where like music and art of any kind, like it was something that happened intentionally, where you went to go listen to music, or you went to go look at paintings, or you did these things yourself. And now that we are using art as just sort of this background sludge to avoid any sort of interaction with our own thoughts or self is weird. And it feels like posting is the core of that, where posting is basically just like throwing so many of our thoughts in one place that it becomes like the white noise from old TVs.
Yeah.
So back in, I think 2015 or so. I think I got my first corporate job there, and after about a year, they had installed in the elevators, which had no music. The elevators were silent, which was fine, which was good because it was that I was alone with my thoughts. They installed monitors above the number keys that basically just showed like business news and like social media feed of like, people are, this is the view from my office, shit like that.
Yeah.
And the purpose of that is to sell ad space because you have a captive audience of business boys and girls. But it felt like someone was just like, no more thoughts in the elevator. Like,
Yeah.
no more thinking.
And this is the part where it is hard not to sound like the shadow band guys, because their whole thing
Correct.
is like, they don't want you to think. But when they're talking about they don't want you to think, they're like, they don't want you to think that you're uncomfortable with social progress. Like,
Yeah.
like, whereas what we're talking about is like, I don't think there's any like they at all. I think it's just that there's like we continually see opportunities to optimize. Like, we continually
Yes.
see opportunities to, like, the fucking business boy talk, where they're just like, there's a chance to make money in the elevator. There's a chance to make money at the grocery store. And it's, I can license you this pop song. I can license you this ad. I can show you this, or, like the fucking gas station you go to fill up, and now there's a thing talking about
There's
the
a
gas
TV.
station. I'm
Yes.
here.
Ads
Like,
Those feel like they are like egging you on.
yeah.
Just like
to
do a falling down. Oh fuck, dude! Oh my god!
Yes.
It is like it's it's insane to me. Like and this is to paraphrase something that I think I ironically saw posted on Twitter. There are still great posts. Always there are great posts hidden among the rough. But I do feel like we are living in an era where we found a way to not have to eliminate drudgery. Was I think what I saw someone post about. It's like we are on the verge of humanity eliminating drudgery, and we're all worried about whether or not we're going to keep our jobs. And rather than like eliminating drudgery and thinking about like what that means for, and not to get all woo woo, but like to like what that means for the idea of our conceptions of self and our ability to like, people who have had to toil their whole lives just to get by didn't really have the privilege in the past of like thinking about self-actualization or whatever, because they were like just trying to get by. And so it means that it could present all these opportunities for us and ourselves, and like what that could mean when you actually have time to sit and think about what it means to be alive. And instead we're just like, God, we got to drown that out real quick. That sucks. I hate that. I hate whatever's going on there when I got that free time.
It doesn't help that all new technologies are pitched with basically, this is going to kill these jobs. When in reality, there's no reason increased efficiency and new technology can't actually make life like less bad. I know, like,
Yeah.
the work week could actually be, it will never, of course, but like as things improve in terms of efficiencies, those gains do not have to be exclusively sucked up by the C-suite class. Like you could just have a chiller life.
Yeah, but everyone who's in charge of making decisions is like the most soul sick, unloved, empty,
Short-term
void
thinking.
person. Yeah, and short-term thinking.
Like dead people. They're just not alive.
My go-to example of this, they're not alive, is like Patreon is a perfect idea.
Yeah.
You have a business where you can collect 5% on tons of small artists, and you don't got to do shit. But they can't just do that. Like, it has to have explosive growth. It has to do weird shit.
Yeah.
And because of that, it can't just stay how it is.
Yeah,
they
like
have
they're
to have
always-
new features.
Like, they're always in peril. And it's like, how are you in peril? Like, you set up the fucking payment thing once, right?
It's because, like, the world is run by people who, if you were, like, having a wedding and they were like, oh, no, we've delivered twice the number of catered meals that we needed. Instead of being like, some cake and dinner for the staff then. They're like, oh, 2 dinners for everyone. Like, that's... That's what's to be done about those 2 dinners. Can I sell them to the staff? Like,
I also think that, and then this is something that might be just because Elon is too in the fucking public view because it's his favorite thing to do. He's so rich that you can't really avoid seeing his stupid capering. Talk about an unloved, dead, souled person. And yet, as we were talking about before recording, like, he wants to be funny and liked more than anyone ever has. I think he has, like, a truly very deep resentment for, like, art and like anything other than the sludge. Like, his life's work is he wants to make X the Everything app, which is it's the fucking sludge. Like, let's be real, folks. Like, what is an app that does everything?
It's sludge, but also PayPal.
It's whatever you'll pay for. Like, that's like, he doesn't mean like it takes care of your every need. He just means it will, like, it is a loose, formless glob that will fit whatever, indent you need it to fit into. Like,
one where context is worse every day. Like, the fact that we had a universally recognized symbol of just like blue check mark, like, doesn't mean what's being said is right. It just means that this is coming from the person who says it is. The fact that that's gone, that contributes to the formless blob, because now it's like there is no, like, the blue check is $8 and they all want you to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah.
When you see someone with the blue check mark, it means, oh, this is someone who I'm seeing all day, regardless of whether or not I want to, and they're saying Nazi thoughts.
The For You tab is a bad place.
This is the thing that's ongoing as we're recording this, that by the time this is posted might be proven to be a lie or true. What do you think happens if he charges money to stay on the website? Because
I'm gone.
I think that's what everyone says, but I if there's one rule to Twitter, it's that everybody who leaves comes back.
I agree with that. My thinking is that it will still cause an exodus. There will be people that stay, but I think of something like True Social, where the issue with those is that all those people want the libs to also be there so they can yell at them. And I feel like the only paying people remain is going to cause a similar problem. Like, the Morlocks will not have the people they want to look at.
Like, I was going nuts a while ago, so I took all the apps off my phone, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go to them on the computer. So, like, I can't be looking at Twitter all day. I have to be at the computer to look at it. It's like a compromise. It's like going on methadone. And my main takeaway from having done this for like 2-3 weeks is these sites suck ass and aren't fun to look at. I'm like, why was I constantly looking at, like, it's like I thought I would be like, okay, it'll make it like more of a special occasion to like look at the sites, and then I won't be staring at posts all day. I'll just do it like a couple times, and it'll be like a little treat. No, it sucks. Like, I don't enjoy it. And this is the other thing. It's not just Twitter. Like, we're on Blue Sky. Like, man, that fucking shit blows my ass. Like, I hate that.
It's okay. So here's the problem on Blue Sky right now is that it's a lot of people just looking for a place to do what they do on Twitter elsewhere, which is like, there are parts of it that I really like then, because it's just sort of people like shooting the shit, maybe joking. But then the loudest voices on Blue Sky right now are people who are like one rung below blue checks, where they couldn't, the circles they ran in would never respect them if they bought a blue check, but they can somehow still get away with going on Blue Sky and being like, so here's how we do things over on Blue Sky. Like, presenting themselves as like, I'm like Blue Sky's fun mom or dad. Like, I'm one of the big people here, and here's what things are like over here or whatever. And I got in there like while it was like before Elon started fucking up every week and everyone's invite codes started like finally growing it to a point where there are actually people in there now. And it was just like such a circle jerk about like, I'm on the new private app, and I was like, the second the doors are open, like, this loses all its appeal, because it's kind of like Truth Social for people who don't suck ass, where it's just like, we kind of need the people who suck ass. Like,
we need the zoo. Like, the posts are we need the freaks. We need someone to go ook ook and throw his shit at the glass.
The modern town square needs at least one guy with his whole ass, penis, and balls out. Like, that's...
Yeah, and Blue Sky is trying to set up rules so that doesn't happen.
Yeah, or it's like they have the same issues where it's like, now there's a little Nazi cloister, but there's no one fun to disagree with. So it's like, okay, so the Nazis have found a way to make purchase on Blue Sky, and yet, like, you know, it's still so exclusive that, like, the true, you know, somebody who will say something crazy about a TV show that I'm willing to argue about for 3 hours, that person's not on Blue Sky due to not getting an invite code yet, but somehow, yeah.
The sites are bad now.
They're all bad. I cannot imagine putting in the effort to start on a new one. That's the thing. It's like, we all got on under the grift that we were keeping up with our friends, or that or you know, like we were talking about before, that there was like an art ramp up you could do into like an art career, and it's like, there's really not, especially not now. Like, there was sort of a while back, but now especially, like, they don't even mint like online celebrities the way that like they once did, where it feels like there are no, like, I'm trying to think of even like the annoying ones. Like, I don't want to name check
Shit
anybody.
my dad says.
Being dead.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, now it's just like single TikToks or something. You don't even get to become a figure within that world anymore. Mm-hmm. Like, all the people who are like these tent poles of like TikTok are people from like 5-10, not 10 years ago, but like they're people who've been established for a while. And it feels like now we've hit this rate of churning through things so quickly that there is truly no use to being on them other than being chronically observed. And the people that attracts are wild.
If you would like to listen to a long-form piece of art about these very self-same themes, consider listening to the audio drama Sicko Shock 2, presented by the Anime Sickos on this very podcast feed.
You gotta listen to it.
You gotta listen to it
for
or
me,
I'll die.
for Joe.
For Joe.
I've listened to it and approve of it.
Hell yeah.
I liked it a lot. I thought you guys did a great job. I wasn't sure how best to say that on the air, because we all take praise differently. I personally shrink into a
I love it. It's the reason I do anything.
Yeah, Tom has to roll around in it and get real mucky.
Well, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Hell yeah.
We're the Anime Sickos, and we're here to say anime is bad in a war crime way.
Yeah, I don't sound too insane, do I?
No, you don't.
No,
Okay,
this is
cool.
great.
I know I said that there was a time where you didn't hear music for years at a time, but
That was pretty funny. But it's charming.
it's true. But yeah,
years?
That's my
people sang songs at home, Dan.
yeah, that's true. I guess yeah, that's true. We had mobile music in the form
No, but
of
you
the
are right
human
that
voice.
like a big thing about like why religion was a huge cultural force was like to go to a cathedral and hear an organ. If you are like a fucking dirt farmer and you go to a cathedral and hear an organ, you're like, God is real and he made all this. And like,
yeah.
if I was a dirt farmer with that frame of reference and I heard a fucking pipe organ, I would be like, God did this.
Yeah. It's the same way that if you saw most of the animals from the ocean, you'd think there's a devil.
Never been horny. Never been horny. Don't tell the paper that I ever got horny.
Dan, you've talked about the horrible cog world, business world. The wolf was a businessman. This world sucks ass, and it's full of crime. I hear that you found a way to utilize its evil in order to trick God. Can you tell us more about this?
Absolutely. I have incorporated as an S corp.
And this is what's wild is it's not hard.
It's not
right?
hard at all. You just got to give them a little bit of money. So I, for years, was a freelancer. Still am a freelancer. And in California, that means you get to when you freelance, you're just like a horrible piglet boy to whoever employs you. They're just like, get out of here, piglet. I'm not keeping any taxes for you. And so you have to send the government your taxes, and it's more for some reason. They're like, you've had it too good for too long working for yourself. Give us 25% of your money.
All the money in your account, you have to look at that number and be like, okay, so like 2/3 of this is actually what's real.
Yeah, you have to be like, some of that's not my money. Some of that is money I'm holding for the government before they turn it into a bomb. It's a bomb of the future. And so you have to pay them quarterly. So I when you do all this, something people will always tell you is you'll always encounter someone who has been like, I incorporated and my whole life got better. And I listened to that for like 6 or 7 years before I internalized and was like, I should give that a shot. So I incorporated and my whole life got better. Because
It's like just right off the top, you were going from like a 25% tax rate to 15, right?
yeah, because now they're suddenly like, wait a second, you're not a dirty, greedy freelancer. You are a small business owner. America's beautiful.
God's chosen people.
Yeah,
The perfect
exactly.
man.
God's chosen business owner. We love little busies here in America, and we need to protect them because they're just so small and fragile. And so because of this, we will treat you like any of your employers. You will pay less taxes.
If you have any Nazi ideas you want us to implement, we will listen. Wink,
yeah, they're
wink.
just like, your corporation is people now. Like when I set it up, they were like, this is basically like your corporation has a social security number. It's basically like a person has been born. And I was many times on the phone call, I said, this is so evil. It is a thing I could not stop saying on the phone, learning about the powers that being an S Corp opens you up to. Powers that include just writing off like anything. And it's like, I can't bring myself to do half of it, where they're just like, put your car on there, put your fucking water on there. You use your water when you work, don't you? Put your fucking literally
What?
like just on
Do
the
depreciation on your chair.
I had to multiple times be like, is that like, I believe that this can be done, but like this has to be like illegal, right? And they're like, it is not only illegal, you are stupid if you don't do it. You're stupid if you don't lease a car under your company now. They were like, you can make your spouse a shareholder, and you can set your shareholder meeting on your anniversary, and then you can go on a trip for your anniversary and write it off as a work expense.
Oh my
That's
God.
new. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm learning a lot.
Can you incorporate if you're not a freelancer?
Well, here's the thing. So the way that it works, to my understanding, and again, like if you're the government listening, it's going to be harder than that to catch me because I'm not going to do any of these little tricks because I'm so afraid of you. The way it works is they're basically like there's a minimum tax rate that you have to pay. So no matter what, no matter how abysmal your business does, because you've written off $10 billion worth of pencils and various things in your home, they're like, no matter what, you owe us $800 in taxes every year. That's the rule. And so they're like, whatever little treats and tricks you cook up for yourself, you got to give us $800 for the privilege of doing tiny crimes. And so they do. That's how that works. But it's like when you write off stuff as a S Corp owner, if your business is posting at a loss, which like if you look at freelancing, most of the time you do wind up posting a loss with some of the stuff you can like, write off or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like then that loss gets counted towards your actual taxes. And that's the second I learned that, I was like, that's why everything is bad. Because if I guarantee you, if I did half the stuff they told me I could do, I would be audited immediately and just like fined into the ground. But also
everything you do is not at the scale
exactly
that is happening.
Every company is doing this at scale. Every company is like, oh yeah, we'll put a couple hundred cars as write-offs because people need the cars and we need that's how the big corporate retreats are always happening, because it's like you can write it off your taxes if it's a business expense, even though you all went on vacation. Like everything's a business expense if it's for work. Which if you do what you love, you never pay taxes.
Fuck work. You know what I hate is work. Why is everything got to be about work?
Dude, absolutely. It's so crazy. The more you learn about I'm glad to make more of the money that I work in exchange for. That's great. I think I should get all of it. But I also, knowing this has dealt me psychic damage.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like this is I said this before, but like when I heard about this, it felt a lot like hearing about TSA pre-check, where I'm like, surely I must be misunderstanding something. You go to the airport for a little bit and you like answer a few questions, and then you just don't get your shoes looked at anymore. Like, huh? Like, surely if it's that easy, like. Then why are we doing it for the sorry people?
But Tom, people who have money have never done terrorism.
It's true.
People who have $100 have never done an act of terrorism or crime, and that's the logic.
Really poor.
Yeah, that's the whole 9/11 operation was done on a shoestring budget, I'm sure.
Jesus Christ.
Like, that's the logic that the country works on, though, where it's just like, okay, well, you know, you paid our little fine, so you get a little sliver of your dignity back at the airport. And, you know, oh, you can pay a little bit more, and you can actually get a chair that has room on the plane. You don't have to fuck up your back to sit on the plane.
Can you, as an S-Corp man, write off the TSA pre-check cost?
Oh,
Absolutely, I can.
doubling up.
Because
Oh
I'm
my
always
God.
traveling for my little busy to go seal deals and optimize things. It depends on where you're going, but yeah, it's like, I mean, here's part of where it gets crazy. For this next part, I might opt to cut it later because I'm afraid to say it on air. Because a big part of my freelance income is a Magic the Gathering podcast, anything I do related to Magic the Gathering, including just like buying cards and like fucking going, like traveling to a Magic the Gathering festival.
This is what America was made for. I understand now.
Yeah, I can write it off. So it truly is, if you do what you love, it becomes a business write-off because the world is a broken and dying place.
So, why do we not have Anime Sickos LLC? Sicko Shack 2 could have been fucking free.
I mean, genuinely.
We could have made us money as a loss, too.
Well, it kind of did, in the sense that when you make enough on Patreon, you have to pay taxes on it. But if you say you spent $10,000 making a audio drama with for that podcast, the IRS goes, "Oh no, I'm so sorry," and you don't have to pay any taxes on the Patreon income.
Should I look into this? Should I
mean, genuinely,
S-Corpify us?
Genuinely, like, I do it for podcasting and my Magic creative text writing. Like, that's the bulk of my freelance work right now because I have like a W-2 gig most days.
I mean, is this what made those Mueller, She Wrote, and adjacent podcasts?
Yes.
I mean, that's
have
100%
the
yes.
juice
You
to
will be
get
ready
the
for the
PPP
next
loans?
PPP scam.
Jesus Christ, we got to get in on that. We need the scams.
I wanted to come here to make sure you guys were prepared for the next round of highly lucrative scams.
I mean, famously, all-timer guest Devin Price, one of the things he was very adamant about is that everyone needs to go to topclassactions.com and say, yes, I did buy 20 cases of tainted muscle milk. Do send me $50. And they can't check. Like,
Because you drank that milk.
Like, it fucking works.
The milk's long gone, pal.
You can do it. I just spent like a couple days ago. I was bored. I spent a couple 45 minutes filling out class action lawsuit forms.
Illinois is a good state for it too.
Yeah.
'Cause you get Facebook checks.
You
I
don't
think
even
there's an Instagram one.
You don't even have to lie about that.
I still get the Facebook checks, and I haven't lived in Illinois for 5 years.
Hell yeah, it's good as hell.
That's why the best state in the nation.
They fucked up so bad in 2015 with Facebook that
You know what you gotta say? You gotta come. You gotta get on a plane to Chicago. You gotta say this is a business expense because I'm going to fucking Kohl's to hone my comedy, and that's my instrument basically. And so this is free. So goddamn dumb.
it's insane. Like especially like when you open it, when you think about like everything a YouTube show or whatever can be, where you're like, I have a YouTube show where I bake myself exquisite cakes, and you're just like, Like, okay, so all my cakes are free. Like, even if you're like not good at the thing you do, if it pulls in enough money for you to pay taxes on, then it opens up this whole can of worms. And I'm sure there is like a graph where it's like, here's the point at which you can push it before the government says, no, you little monster. Like, you can't write off like $25,000 in delicious cakes, but like up until a point, I think it's just legal crime.
Fucking Christ.
Yeah, as long as you pay for the crime pass.
Yeah, you pay for the crime pass and you get to go to Crime World. It's a fast pass for crime.
Folks, that's all the time we have for Anime Sickos. This was an excellent episode. Dan Sheehan, thank you for joining us. Wowee, what a guest appearance. And I think well worth... Elon and his cohort was right to try to silence us because we said some dangerous truth about shadow banning.
What Elon said about the ADL, though, was right, though, right? Because the Anti-Dan League.
Yeah, he hates the Anti-Dan League. No, he's part of the Anti-Dan League.
Oh, yes.
It's hard to keep this straight. Dan, thank you for joining us today.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate a place to just talk about shit that sucks.
It does suck quite a bit. And considering the subject matter of what we talked about today, this is a little... I mean, like, this is quickly becoming an obsolete thing. But I have to still ask, I guess. Where can people find you online if they want to follow you?
I know we just talked about accounts and posting being a waste of time that is awful and it should be hated, but you want to throw out your handles?
Yeah, I do love it. It's just like, hey, man, if you want to find me, I'll be chained to a rock and a bird will be eating my innards from Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm on Twitter at It's Dan Sheehan. I will be the last fucking guy to leave that website. I'm not going to Blue Sky, man.
It's so boring over there.
It's so boring. Just do Twitter circa 2012 on. But am I doing the nostalgia thing? I don't know. Point being,
they got mad at Drill on Blue Sky. They were like, Drill is offensive. Like, what a narcissist. And it's like, are you...
Okay, maybe that place does have the juice then. If I'm just looking for a place to be mad in a contained way, then maybe that's just what I need. I would like to seize it as an opportunity to think a thought again at some point in my life, but I'm working on that. But yeah, if you want to find me online, I'm at It's Dan Sheehan on Twitter. If you want to read my book, I promise the people who read it did like it. I'm sorry for complaining if you are someone who read it and liked it. But yeah, it's out there. If you
liked what we talked about, you're going to for sure like the book because it's not just the Twitter tweets.
I guarantee you it's the only interactive comedy novel that gives you the option to kill and eat your boss.
Oh, hell yeah.
So, that's
what's the title of this book? How do I get it?
It's called I Am Not a Wolf. It is available wherever you find books. It's in local indie bookstores and stuff. It's on, the big ones like Amazon if you live in one of those no bookstores allowed, footloose type of towns.
Seattle.
Most of them now.
Yeah, most of them now. But yeah, it's out there. I really enjoyed writing it, and the people who've read it have really enjoyed reading it. So,
maybe you too can be one of those people.
Yeah, join the club.
Hell yeah. Well, this was so good. I'm feeling jazzed about this. Nothing left to say. I'm going to just fucking sign off. Bye-bye, everybody. I have been Tom, an anime sicko.
I've been Joe, an anime sicko.
And I'm Dan, and I'm an anime sicko.
Hell yeah. We'll see you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Anime Sickos. I've been Tom, a sicko. You can follow me on Twitter at TomHarrison19. Joe is also a sicko. You can follow him on Twitter at ShariaUncle. You can follow Anime Sickos on Twitter at Anime Sickos or email us at animesickos@gmail.com. Please leave us a review or something. I don't know. Tell a friend. Anyway, until next time, bye.